So, Dream Team of the Week for the November Internationals. It's been a hard little slog of me running through some stats to pick 15 of the best players for this week. But I've made my choices. As always, if you guys, some of you are new, as a fair few of you are, I do this like a fantasy team, so these aren't specific positions, just kind of general positions about the rugby field. So I might end up with 3 open side flankers or 3 fullbacks or whatever, but it's mostly based on stats and a bit of gut feel for how these players went. I did have a look after I picked this team to see what the ratings were from some of the news websites, and yeah, some of them agreed with me and some of them thought I was rubbish. So let me know in the comments once I'm done who you guys thought is a good pick, who is a poor pick, and who else you might have had in the side that I didn't list here. I'll start with the props. Steven Kitsoff. He's one of my favourite props. If you've been with the channel any length of time, you know that. I do love old Steven Kitsoff. He gets around the park and he's been solid in the scrum. So that's kind of all you can ask for from a prop. 8 runs, 3 metres. Yeah, I'll take that from a prop. 3 passes. 9 out of 9 tackles, though, is kind of good numbers that you want to see. 2 turnovers on the ground for a prop. That's kind of getting into exceptional territory. And as I said, his scrummaging was pretty solid all around. So it's interesting once the beast becomes fit again, who starts on loose head for the box. But at the moment, I'm pretty happy with Kitsoff there. I should also say, as another quick caveat, that as I do this on stats, games which end in low scores with no tries tend to not make this easier for those players. So, not saying those players in that particular game didn't play well, but there's very few of them in this lineup, just FYI. Next, going with Tyke Furlong. I mean, it could have been both Irish props here, really, with the way they dominated at scrum time. 8 runs, 5 metres, 5 passes, 6 out of 6 tackles, and the scrum was just such an attack weapon. The fact that you see, I think it was all 3 tries from Ireland came from scrums. It was a long night for those Argentinian props. Although, having looked at their numbers, they may not have been the best in the set piece, but they made a whole lot of tackles. If it hadn't been for that scrum, I might have had the Argentinian props here because they were just tackling all day long, 20 plus for some of them. Hooker. It's going to be kind of a hard one. I have gone with Malcolm Marx. I know a lot of South Africans weren't that happy with his performance. It's hard with Malcolm Marx because he's one of the world's best hookers. So when he has a game which is kind of more towards mortal or normal territory, he doesn't look as good because you're expecting him to set the bar high. And Bongi Mbonambi came on and had a stellar shift when he finally got on the field. But Marx's numbers are still pretty good. Admittedly, his numbers with the ball aren't great. 1 run, which is like, why was he not looking for the ball? It didn't come his way. 7 metres, 1 defender beaten, 1 clean break, and 1 pass. So when he had the ball, he did everything, but he only got the ball once. He made 11 from 11 tackles, which for a big man is a solid shift. And again, 2 turnovers on the ground. So South Africa doesn't really play with a specialist feature until Low comes on. But when you got Kitsoff and Marks getting turnovers, maybe that's a new tactic. Lineout was also 100% after a week where he was really, really criticised for his lineout throwing. So the fact that Mostert was back, they got the lineout operational, speaks to his kind of mental fortitude, I guess, not to let the pressure get to him in that situation. Also didn't concede any penalties. So good stuff from the big man. Into the second row, gone with James... Not spoilers for the next one. Brodie Retallick. Have my names on, perhaps the next guy, I'll put him up, seeing as I've said him. James Ryan and Brodie Retallick. What a locking combination that would be if they ever were together on the same side. Retallick, 13 runs, 22 metres, 2 defenders beaten. A clean break and offload, made 9 out of 10 tackles, but key point for him, line-out steals. He was causing the English all kinds of trouble at line-out time. How he goes next week against Ireland is going to be a big measure of how the All Blacks go, I think, because the All Blacks just don't quite look as good when Brodie Retallick's not playing. Although they only won this game by 1 point, and he was playing. So he's definitely a key part of that. As I said, we'll see how he go next week. He didn't get any turnovers, which for him is unusual because he is the guy who really does everything. For James Ryan, another guy who does a bit of everything. His stats are similar. Both these guys have got really high work rates. 18 runs, 28 meters, so even more than Brody with his 13. 4 defenders beaten in those runs, 13 out of 13 tackles, and he did get a turnover. I'm pretty sure the one they're referring to in the stats is the one he got at maul time. Argentinians had a maul. Ryan kind of just plowed straight through it, managed to get his hands on the ball carrier, turnover for Ireland. So good stuff from him. He always puts on a huge shift. How those two go next week head-to-head is going to be a very, very interesting watch. The back row, and here's where we do get some love for games which are focused on a lot of defense and finished 9 points to 6. David Pocock. I mean, if there was a game made for a guy like him, it's this one. He had 7 meters, run in 6 passes, 5 runs. So 5 runs for 7 meters, so not much per run. But 6 passes, beat 1 defender, 12 from 12 tackles, and 4 turnovers. It's pretty hard to get 4 turnovers in one game. But I suppose Pocock's your man if anyone's going to do it. It was really a battle of the back rows. I know a lot of people didn't like it. They thought it was a bit dull. And it was not a try-scoring bonanza. But I also compared it in the comments to that All Blacks game against Japan. That game had 100 points. But it was never really in doubt who was going to win. So if nothing else, that game had you wondering. Had a bit of tension about it as to who's going to win. So for mine, I still enjoyed that one. And I also enjoyed seeing this guy play, Justin Tipperick. So it was kind of him and Pocock just going head-to-head. This game was made for these two guys, really. He had 3 runs for 8 meters compared to Pocock's 5 runs for 7 meters, so very similar. 8 passes, Pocock 6, so these guys had pretty similar games. 1 offload, 20 out of 21 tackles. And I think he also had, I haven't written it down, but from memory it was 3 turnovers. So yeah. These two guys, it was basically Tipperick against Pocock in that game, even though it's a 15-man game. But you know what I mean. It was made for guys like that, and it was guys like that that kind of shone to the fore in this game. Another guy who was really putting himself forward this week from England, Sam Underhill, or as Justin Marshall kept calling him in the New Zealand commentary, it was at least twice he called him Underwood, which is unfortunate. Not long after Ashton was in the media saying that New Zealanders don't know much about the English players. But anyway, 7 runs for 66 metres. I'm curious as to whether those stats include that no try, because that's a lot of run metres for a guy in his position. 3 defenders beaten, 1 clean break. Again, not sure if that includes that run. 24 out of 28 tackles. Crazy numbers. He also got a turnover. Even though it didn't end up being a try, that run that he jinked and jived just made Beauden Barrett look pretty silly. And Beauden's made a lot of people look silly in his time, so it was interesting to see it the other way around for a change. Into the backs. Scrum half was a tricky one, but I had gone with Kieran Marmion. I know not all Irish fans are a fan of Kieran Marmion, but I think I really agonised and looked over all the stats for all the number 9s. Like, it was a kind of a poor week for 9s. Like, Aaron Smith was off his game. Faf de Klerk's box kicking. Yeah, it was... It were many and not always kind of good. But Marmion had 1 try assist, which was a smart little bit of play from the scrum, as I said, which was really dominant. 4 runs for 7 metres, enough to score a try. Beat 1 defender and made 8 from 8 tackles. So before he went off, 50-something minute with an ankle injury, I think he looked the part. As I said, I know a lot of people prefer McGrath when Murray's not available, but the question at 9 for next week is going to be interesting because apparently Marmion is going to be fit. So we'll see how things go. I've heard rumours as well that Murray's going to be fit, but I'm not sure. Fly half. Again, it was a tricky one. I have gone with Andre Pollard. I will get it out of the way that his distribution at times in this game was a wee bit sus. I think it was at least 1 forward pass. But overall, I think 8 runs, 24 metres, beat 2 defenders. So he ran the ball a wee bit, made 14 passes, so a good balance of running and passing. He offloaded once, which was probably that time when he had the hand around his neck. He was being choked and he managed to get the ball out. Made 2 from 3 tackles. 100% with the boot. Not all easy kicks, and he needed to be 100% with the boot. It worked pretty well. So, yeah, not a perfect performance, but I mean, none of them were. I could have gone with Beauden Barrett. He got a drop goal, which was pretty rare for him, and he had some defenders beaten in a game, which was pretty quiet on that regard. But as I said, he's going to have nightmares about that Underhill thing, even if nothing eventuated from it. But yeah, I'm going with Pollard for this one. Could have gone to a few guys. Next in the midfield, I'm going with Bundy Aki. He was one of the kind of stand-up performers in that game. 15 runs for 28 metres is a solid return without being spectacular. 10 passes, 1 offload. Sometimes I wish, at least when he was back in New Zealand, Aki would pass more, but I think 10 passes for 15 runs is actually a pretty good balance of passing and running. 1 try he got, which was key. 4 defenders beaten, made 8 out of 9 tackles. He did give away 1 silly penalty with a late shot on Sanchez, but apart from that, I thought he put in a pretty good shift. He looked hurt at one point, but it seemed like he kind of ran it off. Next, one of the subs. I don't usually go with too many subs on my dream team, but I've gone with Ryan Crotty. All Blacks really looked a lot better when he came on. Raises questions about how Sonny Bill's going to go going forward, but can't read into it that it was all Sonny Bill's fault that the All Blacks weren't playing at peak performance. But when Crotty came on, things seemed to settle down. 8 runs, 40 metres in a pretty tight game. 4 passes, beat 3 defenders, 2 clean breaks, and 3 from 4 tackles. So pretty good shift all around for him. Yeah, as I said, just seems to be a calming influence and makes the players around him play a bit better, which is a pretty special skill. Into the outside backs, and it really wasn't a week for outside backs. Like, I could have gone with heaps of the Lucies and like the locks. There was a lot of choices. Outside backs, not so much. Wasn't really the week of the flying winger. I've gone with Batista Delgui for the first one. He did get a try, which I always like. I always favour guys who get tries. It's just my thing. 9 runs, 36 metres, 2 clean breaks. So he was part of that first move that set up their first try, and then he ended up scoring a few phases later. 3 defenders beaten, 10 out of 11 tackles, and he's not a big guy. So put in some heart there. 10 out of 11 tackles for a winger. You know, I mean, Retallick only made 9. So, Argentina didn't have that much of the ball, but you know what I mean. It's a big shift from him. Next, I've gone with Johnny May from England. Looked dangerous, not quite able to get through that last line of defence. I think he had a pretty good run at the end. He was tackled by, I think it was Mo'unga. Maybe Retallick slowed him down a bit. 8 runs, 66 metres, beat 5 defenders. And as I say, that was a tight game. So beating 5 defenders in that weather was not easy. A clean break, 4 out of 4 tackles, and even got a turnover. So he put in a pretty good shift. I just wish he would have got the ball a bit more, but given the conditions, wasn't really a game for it. And lastly, going with Damian McKenzie, who maybe is something of a bit of yes and bit of no pick, but he's got good numbers. He got a try, which was key for the All Blacks because they only got that 1 try the whole game. 10 runs, 57 metres, 12 defenders beaten. It's ridiculous. I think the next best was Barrett with 7. Beauden Barrett, that is. 4 clean breaks, 8 passes, 2 offloads. Made 1 from 1 tackle, so not much in tackling, but he did concede the ball 6 times, so I think I said it in the review, risk-reward. I put the French jersey on today because I'm sorry there are no French players here. A lot of them played pretty good, but I haven't put any of them in here. I will do a few honourable mentions because I know sometimes, especially with the internationals, people count up how many players I got from each team. Like, I've only got 1 Welshman and I've only got 1 Aussie, so I'm not trying to trigger anyone. It's, as I said, mostly from the stats and the way those games ended up playing out. But I will do a few honourable mentions. Cian Healy, obviously, big part of that Irish scrum. Kautu Nukuafe for the ABs as well. Girardo for these guys, he scored a try. Could have had him in here, but his other stats were pretty solid without being spectacular. For locks, I mean, Lavanini, Peter-Steph Dutoy, Itoje, they all had really good games. Devon Toner, when he came on for Ireland, really seemed to settle things down. For the loose forwards, you could pretty much pick anyone from that Aussie and Welsh game because Moriarty was good, Michael Hooper was good. So it was more than just these guys. Mahoney from the Ireland game, Vermeulen from the box. There were a lot of good performers. Scrum halves, I could have gone with Saran, the French number 9. He kicked his goals well. But yeah, it wasn't exactly setting the world on fire. As I said, it wasn't that big a week for number 9s. Fly halves again, Bowden Barrett. Probably a bit harsh on him not to pick him here, but him and Pollard, I thought both were pretty solid. Midfielders, the 2 Welsh guys, Parks and Davis, solid. I know. I actually read one of the sites giving Parks a bit of grief, but his tackling numbers are really good, and that's kind of what he's there for largely. So I was a bit surprised at that. De La Fuente for the Pumas was good. Dane Hill at Petty and the outside backs had some pretty good numbers in a game which was pretty low scoring. So yes, that's my 15. As always, it is by no means the right 15, but it is my 15. You guys let me know your thoughts on this team and who you would have liked to have in this lineup. Because, yeah, I've definitely missed some guys out. Even guys that I didn't kind of give a little mention to just then. There's definitely others who could have made it. But you guys let me know your thoughts. And I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.